Well, today is countdown day 19 until my trip to Vegas. You see my makeshift barrier? I'm just getting like this total glare. And today I want to talk about how I woke up in the hospital with IV arms sticking out my arm. And you had beep, beep, beep. I had like a pain on my eye. I had a pain in my chest. And I was trying to figure out, how did I end up there? How did I end up there? So I started to remember, and I remember 3 weeks before, I had started getting a pain in my right eye. And it just hurt and hurt, and sometimes it would hurt for like a couple of hours and go away. And then for about 2 weeks, it just hurt for like 4 or 5 hours, and I couldn't do anything. And it didn't matter how much medicine I took, I would just have that headache. So I went to the doctor 3 times. I told him I had a pain in my eye. What do you think it is? They said, oh, we really don't know. And then I went to the optometrist twice, asking him, like, what's going on with me? I just have this pain in my eye, but I can see. I've had some issues in the past. What do you think it is? And they said, well, we really don't know. And then I went to the dentist even, because now I had a pain in my eye. I started having like all kind of pains in my chest and stuff. And I'm like, what's going on with me? And then I was just always in pain. And then I realized my eye started to get swollen. One day it would be swollen, the next day it would be normal. The next day it would be a little bit swollen, and then it would be normal. And I just remember waking up one morning, my head was just aching on the right side, and I went to the mirror. The eye looked a little bit swollen, but it was okay. So I went back to bed, took an aspirin, and the pain just so aggravating, and I ended up going to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden I just remember my eye being like totally the way it looks now, it was like always all the way out. And I had to call a taxi to take me to the emergency room. And I remember when I arrived at the emergency room, I thought, oh, it'd be something simple for them to repair. And then they hustled me off to this room and they isolated me because I thought I had some type of infectious disease. The nurse had her mask on. And I was in pain. I'm like, is there any solutions? Is there any solutions you could give me? And I remember I went into the MRI machine. After I came out the MRI machine, they gave me something. I remember I was laying in the room. I was just all by myself. The nurse would come in like every hour or so just to check on me, and I was just dying. And then what they were thinking about, well, if what we're thinking is true, they didn't even know what it was. They're saying, we're just going to cut out the eye and be done with it. But luckily, a doctor came in. He says, I believe that's sinusitis. We're going to give this one more second look into this. And by the grace of God, this doctor came in and said, no, that's sinusitis. So what we can do is like, we're going to have to do an emergency surgery. Sir, would you give us the consent? I'm like, sure, I'll give you the consent. And what they did was they cut a little hole. And like this wire went through my vein, came up through my mouth, through my eye, and what they did was they drained some type of fluid out of it. So by draining the fluid, it was taking away the poison, because if the fluid touched the brain, it would poison the brains and I would die. Okay, well, basically, I don't know, I'm going to be blind in my right eye, but I'm also going to die. I'm going for the double. Is there a trifecta? Oh yeah, something can go wrong with the oxygen thing and you can never wake up. Well, luckily, since I'm talking to you now, you know that I woke up. Or this is just a dream-like deception. Well, I remember after the surgery, I remember looking at the doctors, listening to them during the surgery thing. They put the thing over your mouth. Bam, I was out like a light. And I remember waking up. Oh, I had such pain in my eye. My chest was hurting. I was like, what's going on? And then I just remembered 3 weeks before, I went to 3 specialists. I went to the doctor twice. I went to the optometrist twice. I even went to a dentist to try to figure out what was going on with me. And none of them helped me. And that just shows you, even if you go to a specialist, a couple of specialists, bad things can happen. And then after I had the surgery, I had to stay in the hospital for like 2 weeks because I had to make sure like the poison didn't come back. So I had this big IV bag that was stuck in my arm, and I was taking medicine every couple of hours. And then after I got out the hospital, I was at my house for another 2 weeks. And then they put like the little IV thing in my arm, the catheter thing. So when I got home, the home nurse would come to the house, bring the medicine, hook up the stuff. to me, and that's how I lived for about 3 months. I was like on constant medicine to make sure I wouldn't get the infection again. And then from there, I went to back to the original doctor, and they gave me shots in my arm. What I hated about the shots, it would like crunch up your hemorrhoids. It's like, oh, my ass is hurt. It's like, Martin, tell me how your ass tastes. I used to live in San Francisco. I'm like, man, this is what it feels to be taken up the butt, huh? I guess I'm getting training for the future, I suppose. And I remember just sitting there because I remember it was just like 3 months of agony. And then after that, I had to wonder, would I be able to get my vision back? So then after I got through I started getting some of the last of my medical treatments, then I had to go to the optometrist and like get constant catch ups on what's going on with my eye and watching things. And it just shows you like it doesn't matter how many specialists you go to, you possibly could get sick. And luckily, the only thing that saved me was I had about a couple of $1,000s in the bank and I had insurance. So it kind of shows you the importance of money, because even if you get a second or third opinion, I still ended up in a hospital, almost losing my eye, almost dying from the brain being poisoned, and then having 3 months of constant medication, even though I went to the specialist. But it just shows you like once you go through it just shows you like anything can happen. Just because you think your life is good, life is fine, in an instant, things can go bad. Who would think that I would wake up in a hospital, go to a hospital, be isolated, and have no one talk to me for like a couple of hours? It's like you were just like, this is probably like how people felt when they first got AIDS, or when you first got leprosy, when leprosy first came out, how people were isolated. So what I'm trying to tell you is just go to the doctor. Even if you have something that awkwardly happens, go to the doctor. Don't go 2 or 3 times. Go for that quadruple opinion. So at least if you do end up in the hospital, you can say, I went to this doctor, this doctor, this doctor, and they couldn't diagnose it. And it reminds you that, hey, the only one that's going to protect you is you. Because even after going all those doctors and stuff, I tried to drive my truck to the hospital, but I couldn't even see out my eye. So I ended up calling a taxi, getting me to the doctor, and then going to the emergency room, getting admitted, and then waiting for the doctors to give me the diagnosis. Kind of reminded me, like as I told you earlier, I've been in dentist offices for over 35 years. And when I went to the dentist office, I remember when I went to the dentist office that I had to do my extra work. So it just shows you, never know what can happen. My blackjack tip of the day is always stand on a hard 17.